Before he was Tony Rampino, the feared mobster, he was just Tony, a boy from the streets of New York. In the heart of the city that never sleeps, Tony Rampino was born into a world of hardship and struggle. His family, immigrants from Italy, eked out a living in the crowded tenements of Little Italy. Poverty was a constant companion, and the harsh reality of survival was a lesson Tony learned early on. This was a New York far removed from the glitz and glamour, where life was a daily grind. Tony's father, a dock worker, was often absent, laboring long hours to put food on the table. His mother, a seamstress, worked her fingers to the bone to make ends meet. Young Tony, the eldest of 5 children, was left to his own devices, navigating the gritty city streets. As Tony grew older, so did his appetite for power and money. It was in the grime-filled back alleys and dimly lit bars of his city where Tony Rampino truly found his calling. The Mafia, the world of organized crime, wasn't just a choice for Tony, it was a destiny he embraced. Tony's rise was not meteoric, but methodic. He started as a mere foot soldier, running errands and proving his loyalty. His tenacity and cunning, however, did not go unnoticed. Soon enough, he was involved in the Mafia's various criminal activities, from smuggling to racketeering, from loan sharking to assassination. His reputation grew. He was not just Tony anymore, he was Tony the Terrible, a moniker he earned for his ruthless efficiency. Every mobster has a turning point, a moment that cements their status in the underworld. For Tony, it was the infamous Gettysburg heist. It was audacious, daring, and deadly. It's not just the heist itself that was significant, it was Tony's role in it. He was the mastermind, the orchestrator. The heist was a success, but it came with a heavy price. It left a trail of destruction, reminding everyone of the bloodiest battles of the Civil War. But this was Tony's war, a war for power, respect, and control. As Tony's reputation grew, so did his influence. His name was whispered in hushed tones in the underworld. He was feared and revered. He had become a symbol of the Mafia's ruthless pursuit of power. Tony was no longer just a man, he was an institution, a force to be reckoned with. But power and respect come with a price, and Tony was willing to pay it. He lived in the shadows, away from the public eye, conducting his business with a cold, calculated efficiency. He became a ghost, a specter that loomed large over the city. His life was not one of luxury, but one of perpetual vigilance. Always aware of those who might challenge his authority or betray his trust. Tony Rampino was not just a name anymore, it was a symbol of fear and respect in the underworld. With every passing day his legend grew, his influence spread, and his grip on the city tightened. His was a life in the shadows, a life of power, control, and unyielding ambition. At the height of his power, Tony Rampino operated with impunity and ruled the underworld like a king. From the dimly lit backrooms of bars to the grandeur of high-stakes casinos, Rampino's influence was pervasive. His reign, though shrouded in darkness, was marked by an uncanny ability to control various criminal enterprises without ever landing in the crosshairs of the law. Tony Rampino wasn't just a man, he was an empire. An empire built on the foundations of illicit deals, fear, and an unyielding grip on the city's underworld. His name echoed through the alleys of crime, instilling a mix of terror and respect. The genius of Tony's reign lay not just in his iron-fisted rule, but also in his ability to remain elusive, a specter in the shadows. He was a master puppeteer, pulling the strings from behind the scenes, manipulating the world of crime like a well-orchestrated symphony. Rampino was a mentor, a figure of authority to other mobsters. He molded them in his image, teaching them the art of survival in a world that was always one wrong move away from annihilation. His leadership was unchallenged, his word the law, but Tony's rule was far from a reign of terror. He had a knack for business and an understanding of human nature that allowed him to maintain control without resorting to unnecessary violence. His operations were as smooth as they were ruthless, a testament to his strategic brilliance. His empire was vast and varied, a network of operations that spanned gambling, loan sharking, and protection rackets. And yet, despite the scale of his operations, Tony managed to evade the law, slipping through their fingers time and time again. His cunning, combined with a deep-seated fear of his wrath, kept him a step ahead of justice. But, as they say, all good things must come to an end, and so did the reign of Tony Rampino. The higher you climb, the harder you fall, and Tony Rampino was no exception. As the whispers of the Mafia grew louder, Tony's once untouchable status began to crumble. Tony Rampino, the formidable mob boss, mastermind of organized crime, was finally facing his reckoning. His downfall was as dramatic as his rise. A life woven with threads of power, intimidation, and fear was now under the unforgiving scrutiny of the law. The walls of his empire began to close in, and the shadows he once commanded now hid his pursuers. The long arm of the law, relentless and determined, began to catch up to him. As evidence mounted and allies turned foes, Tony found himself entangled in a web of his own making. The whispers of his deeds became the shouts of his indictment. The courtroom, a far cry from the dark alleyways and lavish hideouts he was accustomed to, became his new battleground. Tony's trial was a spectacle, a display of the law's might against the underworld's defiance. The once feared mob boss, now just a defendant, watched as his empire was dissected and laid bare for all to see. The gavel fell, and with it, the reign of Tony Rampino. His imprisonment sent shockwaves through the Mafia world. The void left by his fall disrupted the balance of power, creating a vacuum that triggered a scramble for control. A new era dawned, one where Tony Rampino was no longer a king but a cautionary tale. The once feared Tony Rampino was now just another inmate paying for his years of crime and terror. The whispers of the Mafia quieted, but the echo of Tony Rampino's haunting criminal odyssey remained, a chilling reminder of a life lost in the shadows. Tony Rampino, the mobster, the criminal, the man, left behind a legacy that echoes through the annals of crime history. Tony's life was a tapestry woven with threads of ambition, power, cunning, and an insatiable thirst for wealth, all set against the backdrop of the underbelly of the American dream. Born to humble beginnings, Tony's life was anything but ordinary. His ascent to power within the Mafia was fueled by a fierce determination to rise above his circumstances. He lived a life shrouded in darkness where violence was the currency and power the ultimate prize. His reign was one of fear and respect, a testament to his ruthless tactics and strategic mind. His influence on the Mafia was profound, his name synonymous with power and danger. Tony's life and crimes serve as a stark reminder of the grim reality that underlies the glitz and glamour often associated with the life of a mobster. But Tony Rampino's story is more than a tale of crime and power. It's a narrative that underscores the dark side of the American dream, where the pursuit of wealth and status can lead down a perilous path. His life serves as a cautionary tale, a stark lesson in the price of ambition unchecked by morality. Yet for all his power and influence, Tony paid a steep price. His fall from grace was as dramatic as his rise, a stark contrast to the invincibility he once seemed to possess. His story is a chilling testament to the fact that crime, no matter how well orchestrated, always has its consequences. In the end, Tony Rampino's life was marked by a haunting paradox, a man who sought power and wealth with unyielding determination, only to find that these very pursuits led to his downfall. His legacy serves as a stark reminder of the ephemeral nature of power and the devastating consequences of a life lived outside the law. Tony Rampino's haunting criminal odyssey serves as a chilling reminder that crime, no matter how glamorous it may seem, always has its price.